Welcome guys. Today I wanted to take you through a version that we did of Pat Metheny's Cinema Paradiso love theme. It's Pat Metheny recorded with a bassist Charlie Haden, and there are lots of really cool live performances on YouTube as well. And what I wanted to do today is, rather than go through note by note, far more beneficial actually is learn how the piece is constructed. So to look at the big sections, then to look at the chord progressions and the phrases, then the melody notes, and really build it from the ground up. And even if your final goal is to play it exactly as close to the original as possible, I still think this is a much better and a much quicker way to learn it. So we have a context for everything we learn. So we're going to go to a very fine detail, but we start very broad. And the broadest, I think, is to start with the sections and then the chord progressions and break it up that way. So before we dive into that, if you would like to have a score of exactly what we played, that's all available on Patreon. There's also a bass part there if you have a friend who plays the bass, or if you want to double track and play the bass. It sounds really beautiful with that bass, electric bass, or bowed double bass, which would be amazing as it is in the Pat Metheny. If you're enjoying our videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like. So let's dive straight into the chord progression. Now, you may know many ways of playing these chords. For today, I'm going to show you the voicings that get used in the arrangement. So it's going to start sounding like the arrangement from the beginning. Now, the way the piece is written, it's almost a perfect square, like so many pieces. 4 lines of 4 bars. It's almost a perfect square because at the end there's a little extra bar added on here and there, just to the end of the last line. But the first 3.5 lines, very straightforward. So we'll just dive in and get playing. Let's have a look at line 1. Starts with a whole bar of A minor, whole bar of D minor 7, then it's G for half a bar, G7 over B, C sus, and C. So I'll go through again and I'll count the beats. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can hear how the tune would kind of fit on top of that. Let's have a look at the next bar. So the next bar has, it looks like an E minor chord, but we're thinking of it as a C over B because we've just come from the C chord. Then we've got an A minor 7 sus, then a C over G, and then an F. So that's just one chord per bar. Let's have a look at that again. We've got C over B, A minor sus, A minor 7 sus, C over G, and then F. Just one chord per bar. So each of those chords lasted for 4 beats. If we have a look at the next line, we've got D minor over C. Then it's a kind of a B minor 7 flat 5. Then G, E7 over G sharp, and A minor 7. So that line has 2 chords per bar, 1 chord per bar. 2 chord per bar, 1 chord per bar. Let's go through it again. So it's D minor over C, B minor 7 flat 5. G, E7 over G sharp, A minor 7. And this brings us to the last line. So the last line, we start with a C over G, and it's got that add 9. So it's C over G add 9. We're going to land on a D minor 7 over F, D minor over F, B7 over F sharp, and then it's an E sus flat 9, resolving down to an E. So there you see we've got an extra bar added on. So if we count the bars, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's our 17 bars. So if we want to get a picture of the whole piece, the whole chord progression, I'll play through it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one chord per bar unless there's a chord change in the bar. So you'll notice 70% of the time it's just one chord per bar, and sometimes there's going to be two chords where there's a significant change. And I'm going to count the bars 1 to 17. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So then we come to the middle section, which is a repeat of the same melody, except it's an octave higher, and the ending is slightly different. There's a few extra bars. So once again, it's almost a square, except for that last line's a little bit elongated. So let's dive right in and have a look at the chords. They're almost exactly the same as the chords for the previous section, but there are one or two little additions. So we start with line 1, 4 bars. A minor, D minor, D minor 7, G, and then C sus, and C. Now looking at some of the chords, it might look, for example, like they are more advanced chords than they are. For example, this might look like a C7 sus, but we're not playing that note. So although we're not holding anything down on the G string, so if we were to strum it, it would be like a C7 sus 4 chord. Because we're not playing this note, it's just a regular C sus, and then C major. So I'll just run through those again. One chord per bar for the first 3 bars, and then we've got that C sus and C. So A minor, D minor 7, G major, C sus, and C. Then we have the C over B, A minor 7 sus. And we come up to this where we're just going to play a G and an E, but we're really thinking of it as a C major over G chord. And it goes to F. Now what happens in this section is Pat Metheny plays halfway through the bar, he drops from the F down to the E. Sounds really cool. It kind of leads to the next part. So if we start that bit again, it's C over B, A minor 7 sus, C over G, F over E. There's 2 chords in a bar. We count them as 2 chords. I'll just do that in time. So it's 1, and that takes us straight to the next line. So now we're on line 3. We've got D minor over C, B minor flat 5, then we got G, E7, or in this case it's just, well, it's E7 over G sharp, going to A minor, and then again C over G, so that would be the next line. So let's just do that line again. We've got D minor over C, B minor flat 5, then G, E7 over G sharp, and A minor. And I'll just do it in time, counting the bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear the piece. You can hear this is really the soul of the piece. I was in a masterclass once watching a masterclass of the cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and he was describing his approach into the music. And he said that the harmonies, the chords, are really the soul of the music, and the melody and everything else is like more superficial, more on the outside. So to really, learn the chords. So we'll just do that one more time. So we've got D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we come to the last line. Now here what happens is, again, we have C over G. Pat Metheny jumps back. There's so many different fingerings you can use, and I find his are quite unorthodox, but they just work. They just sound good. I don't even understand why, to be honest. But he's coming down, then he jumps back there, comes up to an F chord. So this is slightly different because we played a D with the D when we did it at the lower octave. He does an F, and then we have this again, B7 over F sharp. And then it changes. Then it goes to G sus, then a regular G, and then to C major sus, and then a regular C major. So the piece, although it's in A minor, when it really ends, it ends in C major. In fact, if you look at the harmonies, it's quite close to A minor and C major are closely related keys. They're relative keys, which means they use almost all of the same notes. And you notice these chords, a lot of them belong to C major. A lot of the piece is kind of ambiguous tonally. It gives it this bittersweet. The bitter would be the A minor and the sweet would be the C major. And ultimately it ends in C major. So the main difference between the two, between that first tune, the first time the theme comes down here, and the two subsequent times, is that the first time we end in the key of A minor, but we end on an E chord, whereas now we end in the key of C major on a C chord. So I'll just run through that last line. We start with that C over G, going down to F, B7 over F sharp, and then we've got G sus going to G, and C sus going to C. So how many bars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this verse or this theme has 19 bars. Unusual. So again, think of it like a square. It's perfectly square, except for the last line kind of carries on, shoots out. I'll go through it, counting all the bars. Hopefully we'll end on 19. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,